Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at some of the new features that have come out with the most recent release of Control 6.1. There's a couple of changes. You'll see most of them are cosmetic and just kind of overall help the system look better, but there are a couple of functionality changes that we want everyone to be aware of. So today we're going to do an introduction to those changes and just kind of show you some of the new items that you can look out for. Some of the first changes that you're going to see into the system is just some general UI changes. Things like, we got a couple of different icons, some of the colors changed, but there are a couple of other useful functions that are included with the UI updates that will be very useful for you to use in the system. And let's take a look at a few of those items. So as you can see here, we do have some of the new colors, some of the new icons that you'll see, mostly across the top, and the navigator screens mostly look a little bit different. But in general, the functionality is all still the same, just an updated look, so that way the system looks a little bit more modern. Some of the other useful changes is we've added some backlinks to the system. So if I pull up an order that was cloned from another order or was converted from another estimate, you'll see up here at the top, it has the order 1012 from estimate 504. So it will show me that this particular order was converted from another order, or not converted from an estimate, or that this order was cloned from another order. So it will show me those backlinks, and I can click on those backlinks. So if I click on 1013, the system will open that particular order. So it's an easier way for me to see if a job had come from another job, and then to be able to access that previous job. I can use that backlink function to kind of jump back to portions of the system that came from other areas. Another UI element that we've added is if I pull up a company record and I want to copy out a portion of here. We used to have to edit the record for me to be able to copy out a field. Well, a lot of the fields now in the system are able to be copied without having to be in edit mode. So I haven't edited this record, but I can still go into here and select the address, select the phone number. So a lot of the fields in the system I can now highlight and select even if I'm not in edit mode. So it just makes it easier to go in and copy information out if you want to pull out an address to put in somewhere else, you want to pull out a phone number to write down or pull into another system. You can copy those fields out without having to edit a record in the system. And those are really most of the UI improvements that have happened to the system. Some of the next big set of changes that we're going to look at is the taskbar. So the taskbar has changed, I wouldn't say drastically, but there is a lot of things that if you're not ready for them, they can throw you off. So we want you to be aware of those changes. So no longer in the system do we have that bar on the right side where you can pull down and select the different tabs and close your tabs. And what that section is gone because that has moved to the individual tabs themselves. So if I look at the different tabs, they all have the X button directly on the tab. So I can close the tab from here. And also, I can still access the same menu that you used to be able to access just by right-clicking in this blue bar. So if I right-click, I can still do my close all windows. I can jump between a bunch of tabs. So if I have many tabs open and I can't even see them all on the screen, I can still right-click and use this to jump between the different tabs. The next one you probably saw a little bit of when we were looking there, and we've added a new history option to the system. Essentially what the history is exactly what it sounds like. So if I've been to an order or I've been to an estimate and I accidentally close that screen, instead of me having to go back and try to remember what was that order or how did I get there, through the right-click menu, or there's a new menu option at the top that you can add for history. And it does exactly what it sounds like. So for any record that I'd opened up previously, the system keeps a fairly big record. Obviously, it's for that particular session, so the history would reset once you exit and log out of the system. But for that particular session, the system will store most of the records. And there's a few fields that is not necessarily going to store. If you go into a payment screen for a particular order, that's not going to save a history of that. But for all the major order estimate company, most of the major screens will save a record of that particular screen that you were at. So that way then you can go and pull up that screen at another point in time by using the history. So I just select it there and it pulls up that screen as if you had pulled it up normally. So it makes it really quick and easy to access those screens that you've pulled up before without having to go back and try to remember how you got to those screens. One of the other taskbar improvements that I need to go back to real quick is if you have a lot of tabs open, but you want to have them ordered in a particular way, you can drag and drop to reorder the order of the tabs up here. So if I want to put my Explorer screen first and I want to put the orders in numerical order, I can just click and drag, pull that tab over, and I can reorder the ordering of the tabs there to have them in the order that I want. So right now we're going to discuss probably one of the bigger features that was released with 6.1. And that's what we call the associated orders. So essentially, associated orders is a new way in the system to allow you to combine and link orders to a particular master order. Now, there are a couple of things to be aware of. You can't do a hierarchy. So I can't do an associated order that's a associated order of another order that's an associated order. So I can't make it where I have groups of associated orders that are under other orders. So I'm going to have multiple orders that are under one parent order that's not a separate associated order. So I can't really have a hierarchy there. So that's the biggest thing to really be aware of. But what this lets you do is in the system, on the totals tab where you would go in and put the PO number, there is an associated order field here now. And if we go look at the Explorer screen, if we go right click and do column chooser, there is a new column that you can add for associated order number. And that will show you if an order has been associated with another order. So if I opened up in one of these orders here, so 1026 is linked to 1034, what that's really going to do is if I go to that totals tab, I can see that it's associated with order 1034. Now, the benefit that you get from this is back on the Explorer order screen. If I search for order 1034, not only do I get order 1034, but I also get all of the different line items or all the different orders that have that same associated order number. So I can pull up a grouping of orders based off of that one single associated order number. And I believe it's still in development, so I'm not sure if we have it right now, but there is a report that's being worked on to allow you to do a associated order invoice to be able to invoice all those orders with a single click. So that's currently in development still. That will be released as one of the system updates, but that is a function that is coming out. But that is one of the neater functions that we have now, is that you can tie these orders together through an associated order function in the system, and that will essentially link those orders together. So now I have these three orders that know that they are linked together based off the associated order number. So that's the biggest feature that we have. There are still a few more minor features that I want to go through that were added with 6.1 that we want you to be aware of. Most of them are just neat little things that you can do or new little options that we added that you just may not know exist. So we've always had an option there for being able to lock your system after you've been idle for 10, 20, however often that you decide. However, we can set, there's a new option to let you just have the system automatically log you off if you've been idle for 10, 15, 20, however long that you've been idle for. And essentially that function works the exact same way that the idle function does. So if you go to Setup, User Options, and go to Miscellaneous Options, you have the option here, automatically lock the screen when idle for X minutes, and then the new option for attempt to log the user out when idle for X number of minutes. Now it has a lot of the same rules that you would have when you're normally trying to log out. If you have any screens that are open in edit mode, you have anything that's kind of locked down that would prevent you from closing out of the system will not be able to auto log you out because you have something that it needs your permission to cancel or save before it would close out. So just like if you would to hit the regular logout button, if it's not able to log out at that time, it'll attempt it, but if it's not able to, it won't log you out because you have something open that the system requires you to close before you're able to log out. Now the next function is for certain users that are a little bit more savvy on the HTML side. They're a bit more web development based, so I don't really have any personal examples of this right now, but they have added a new function in the system to allow you to directly link from within the system's browser. Now this function will only work if you open the browser inside of Siri. So this won't work for an external browser, but essentially what you can do, and I've pulled up under our main wiki page, so control.seriouswiki.com. If we go to our release notes, and we go into the new in Control 6.1, we get a lot of the functions that we've already talked about: history, associated orders. So all of those functions are reviewed here, but then we have this section here for embedded links to access areas of control. So what you can do with this is there's a way to start orders or open up companies or open up other orders and Explorer screens within the system using embedded links. And it gives you a couple of tools here. It talks about here's the syntax, so here's the HTML tags, here's the different links that you have access to. So it gives a person that has web development experience, it gives them the tools that they can use to actually make a web page that can be pulled up from within the browser inside of Sirius and be able to make links directly within the system, so that way you can quickly create orders or estimates or add items based off of a few links that you create. And then the last thing that we're going to take a quick look at is there were a couple of new CFL functions that were added in 6.1. And again, these are more for users that are really comfortable with both SQL and CFL, and are comfortable with doing their own formulas and functions within the system. There's now a formula to let you set a variable using CFL. So if you want to set the value of another variable, there is a function for set variables. In addition to, there is an execute SQL function that will go through and run, insert, and update and delete statements within the system. Obviously, you have to be really, really careful with those because you are running SQL functions within the system, but there now are CFL commands that you can access to do that. And there's some more documentation on the wiki of those particular functions. So those are really the biggest features with 6.1. Now, there is one other huge feature that we have, but we're actually going to be covering that in our next video. So if you have some more questions, we actually have a production cloud app, which is a phone app that you can access to be able to use things within the system. Now, this presentation here will be done in another video coming out soon. So if you have some other questions, please check that out. And with that, that gives us all the things that we need for 6.1. So that's an introduction to all the new 6.1 features. We hope you guys check it out. We hope you have fun. If you have any questions, issues, if you have any feedback on those features, please just drop us a line, let us know, send us an email. We definitely are appreciative of any feedback that you guys can give us. So hope you guys check it out. Have a great time. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.